Tonight on the Black Channel, I have spent the last couple of decades warning you all about the steps to Nazi Germany, and I told everybody exactly where we were at. A lot of people attempted to deny it. But there is no more denying it now. And some folks may attempt to try to shift blame and whatnot, but no, I stand by everything that we have done, because everything that we have done has been in the right. Before I go any further here, though, of course, on your screen is Vice President J.D. Vance, white supremacist arch-fiend, a villain for the ages if ever there were one. And in his desperate, pathetic white supremacist attempt to attack black people, by the way, he sealed his own fate politically. We will come to that in just a few moments. But the reason we're having a nice program is because of this. We're having a nice program here because of this. This is the thing I want you all to take a look at here from Politico. They had an article that they published. I love Hitler. Leaked messages expose. Young Republicans racist chat. Boy, these chat rooms. These people are out here. And they are going in these Telegram chats. And what they did here is, they try to hide what they do in these places where they are more likely to have concealed messages, encrypted platforms. You saw Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth get caught. A number of other folks there, Charlie Kirk and his friends, they got caught. A lot of folks think they're hiding out in these places. I want to read the article here to you. I'm not going to read all of it, but I do want to put it in its proper context. It says Dateline New York. Leaders of young Republican groups throughout the country worried what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked. But they kept typing away. So that's the way white supremacy works. It's like Tourette's. They can't help themselves. I mean, they should be smarter than that, but they can't help themselves. They've been sitting on it for so long that now that they've had an opportunity, they think that Trump has got their back. Now they're talking too damn much. The problem for them is that they're not smart enough to realize that, by the way, you realize that Trump the dunce isn't saying anything. You're not smart enough to realize that. The article goes on to say they referred to black people as monkeys and, quote, the watermelon people, and mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide, and lauded Republicans who they believed support slavery. Notice, didn't say supported past tense. It is support slavery present tense. You're not on your way there. This is where you are now. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used the words nigga, variations of a racial slur more than a dozen times in the chat. More than a dozen times. That's not accidental. By the way, in case you were wondering, this is Hendricks right here. The most deficient person in the room. The most deficient person in the room. An insecure little dude who has a lot to be insecure about, obviously. Has a lot to be insecure about, and of course, obviously, he has no acceptance among white people, so this is the story of white supremacy. The story of white supremacy is that you are inferior and insufficient and deficient. And so in a pathetic and desperate attempt to make yourself feel better about your deficiency, what you instead attempt to do is change the subject. Let me denigrate somebody else and try to make myself feel like I'm superior to them, even though there isn't anything on your side to feel superior about. It is the same story. Century after century. Century after century. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to rape as, quote, epic. Peter Giunta, who at the time was chair of the organization, wrote in a message sent in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. I'd like to see about showing you all exactly these three individuals here. By the way, these are the three of them. These are the three of them here. These are the three of them here. Hendricks, Walker, Giunta. These are the three of them here who would suggest to you that they are in some superior position. I want you to take a look at that and realize what you're dealing with here. Okay. Giunta was referring to an upcoming vote on whether he should become chair of the Young Republican National Federation, the GOP's 15,000 member political organization for Republicans between 18 and 40 years old. Quote, I'm going to create some of the greatest physiological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers, Giunta continued. Two members of the chat responded. I'll show those to you on your screen here. Two members of the chat responded. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber, and everyone that endorsed but then votes for us is going to the gas chamber. When do we start bullying, dude? We have a solid 3 people who can probably have them want to jump. If they vote for us, why would they be gassed? That's a good question. When do we bring that side out? I'm going to create some of the greatest psychological torture methods known to man. So if they vote for us, why would they be gassed? We only want true believers. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. I'm ready to watch people burn now. We got to pretend that we like them. Hey, come on in. Take a nice shower and relax. Boom! They're dead. Yeah. This is what they put in there. This is what they said. This is what they said. Okay. The exchange is part of a trove of Telegram chats obtained by Politico and spanning more than 7 months of messages among young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. The chat offers an unfiltered look at how a new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one is listening. People, you have never in American political life seen black people speaking like this ever. You have never seen this. You have never seen such a thing. We never do this. Let's be very, very clear about this. The reason why racism is a white supremacist issue and racism is a white issue, white people don't go to basketball games and black people are in the stands shouting slurs. Nobody does that. White men don't go to their soccer games and black people are making slurs and comments and racial epithets. That doesn't happen to white people when the majority of the room is black. That never, never, ever occurs. They never walk into a room full of black people and their race is something that they get attacked for or dehumanized for. It's never happened in all these centuries of it. You can go monitor all the Telegram and WhatsApp chats you want to. You won't find black people talking like this about white people. You won't find it, which is why demonic monsters like Megan Ku Klux Kelly have to fabricate things because this is the reality you find everywhere. You find this everywhere you go. That's the point. And always, you never see black people acting like this, even when we're by ourselves. This is not what you ever see. So they're desperately trying to find some way to graft that. Oh, there's racism on both sides. You never see this among black people anywhere. You ask them to show us your examples. Oh, it's not there. Since Politico began making inquiries, one member of the group chat is no longer employed at their job, and another's job offer was rescinded. Prominent New York Republicans, including Representative Elise Stefanik and State Senate Minority Leader Rob Ort, have denounced the chat, and festering resentments among young Republicans have now turned into public recriminations, including allegations of character assassination and extortion. Republicans are always telling you that they don't see why people keep calling them Nazis. Of course, they're lying. Of course they are. Of course they're lying. Of course they are. Of course they are. They know exactly why they get called that. You can't get called the same damn thing over and over again and you don't know why people are calling you that. People keep showing you what you do. You're not saying that because you don't know. You know exactly why they're doing it. Oh, play dumb. You know exactly why they're calling you that. You work very, very hard to maintain the title. So they're not ignorant about it. They know exactly what they're doing and they know exactly that they've earned that position. You wouldn't have these younger dudes here acting like this, and they're not really young, they're in their late 20s, but you wouldn't have them acting like that if this wasn't the example of how you become a respected Republican. You become a respected Republican by doing things like this. This is what they do. They're just mimicking the adults they've been around. They're mimicking them. A 2,900 pages of chats. Damn! Boy, somebody set them all the way out. You see, if you want to knock down white supremacy, what have we always told them? For white people, you want to know what you can do about racism? You can do this right here. If you're a white person talking about what can you do about racism, you can do this right here. When we talk about you can do your part to dismantle and deconstruct the system of white supremacy, this right here is what you can do. Your racist friends, your racist daddy, your racist granddaddy, your racist uncle, this is what you can do right here. You have access to these places. You see them doing this stuff all the time. You see elected officials doing this stuff all the time. You got access to it. You can prove that they do it. Y'all can all prove that they do it. You just sit there quietly. You don't need to come to us talking about what you can do. You already know what you can do. You can start turning states' evidence. That's what you can do. You can do this right here. You ferret out the white supremacists. You expose the white supremacists. You do this. And there's a million Telegram chats going off every hour. You can be doing this the whole time. You don't need us to sit up here and give you marching orders. You know damn well where all the white supremacists are. If you want to dismantle the system, dismantle the folks that you see using it every day. Dismantle the people that you see practicing white supremacy and using it every day. You got access to those inner corridors. You can expose them. Yes, you can. The 2,900 pages of chats shared among a dozen millennial and Gen Z Republicans between early January and mid-August chronicled their campaign to, quote, to seize control of the National Young Republican Organization on a hardline pro-Donald Trump platform. Many of the chat members already work inside government or party politics, and one serves as a state senator. One serves as a state senator. This is how deeply embedded it is, and this is what we have always said. They've always been there. It's always been like that. This is not new. This is not new. This is what it's always been. The Klan didn't go away. They just changed outfits. This is what we've been talking about forever. And if these other folks would do this, you're sitting up telling us that we need to go find and whatnot. No. Those of you in white society, you know where all these people are. You know exactly where they are. You're supposed to be the ones ferreting them out. You're supposed to be the ones outing them. And if you did that, then they wouldn't have a place to hide in the first damn place, and all of them would have to go ahead and give up white supremacy because it would be entirely impossible to maintain it. It is possible to maintain it because all the rest of you sit quietly and let them do these things. Together, the messages reveal a culture where racist, anti-Semitic, and violent rhetoric circulate freely, and where the Trump-era loosening of political norms has made such talk feel less taboo among those positioning themselves as the party's next leaders. Quote, the more the political atmosphere is open and liberating, like it has been with the emergence of Trump and the more right-wing GOP even before him, it opens up young people and older people to telling racist jokes, making racist commentaries in private and public, said Joe Fegan, the Texas A&M sociology professor who has studied racism for the last 60 years. He's also concerned the words would be applied to public policy. Quote, it's chilling, of course, because they will act on these views. Their goal, people, is not having a white separatism. Their goal is the genocide and the annihilation of black people, the literal genocide and literal annihilation of us, particularly the descendants of the American slaves, but their goal is eradication and physical annihilation. The dynamic of easy racism and casual cruelty played out in often dark, vivid fashion inside the chats, where campaign talk and party gossip blurred into streams of slurs and violent fantasies. And doesn't this guy right here look like he could be a porn producer? What? So you can imagine him doing all kinds of sick, sadistic things. Clearly, straight out of Central Casting. The group chat members spoke freely about the pressure to cow to Trump and avoid being called a rhino, the love of Nazis within their party's right wing, and the president's alleged work to suppress documents related to wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein's child sex crimes. This fella here looks like a sex crime, but in any case, quote, Trump's too busy burning the Epstein files, Alex Dwyer, the chair of the Kansas Young Republicans, wrote in one instance. Dwyer and K. Katie declined to comment. Maligno and Hendricks did not return requests for comment, but some involved in the chat did respond publicly. Giunta claimed the release of the chat is part of a, quote, highly coordinated year-long character assassination led by Gavin Wax and the New York City Young Republicans Club, an allusion to a once obscured internecine war that has now spilled into the open. So he didn't apologize and say he was wrong. He's saying, oh, other folks set me up. So what happened to taking accountability, people? Aren't these the take accountability people? Haven't they spent years and decades telling you that, by the way, the problem with black, you don't take accountability, you take responsibility. You need to take accountability and responsibility. His turn. You know it's them folks' fault over there, right? You know it's their fault, right? I didn't do nothing wrong. It's them folks over there. They're the ones who messed up the game for me. So, but it's not me. I didn't do it. Okay. Don't look at me. It's somebody else's fault. Those, quote, those logs were sourced by way of extortion and provided to Politico by the very same people conspiring against me. What's most disheartening is that, despite my unwavering support of President Trump since 2016, rogue members of his administration, rogue, not rouge, including Gavin Wax, have participated in this conspiracy to ruin me publicly simply because I challenged them privately. Okay, so I just want you all to know, by the way, the take responsibility people. This is how seriously the take responsibility people take responsibility. So, yeah, there's that. Despite his allusions to infighting, Giunta still apologized. I am so sorry to those offended by the insensitive and inexcusable language found within the more than 28,000 messages of a private group chat that I created during my campaign to lead the Young Republicans. He said, While I take complete responsibility, while you take it, you gonna hook something on that? While I take complete responsibility, I have had no way of verifying their accuracy and am deeply concerned that the message logs in question may have been deceptively doctored. Since they like this so much.
Nigga, please.
Yeah, buddy, now he's telling you, by the way, the messages might have been doctored, so I am apologizing, but I actually don't think I even did anything, so. At least one person in the Telegram chat works in the Trump administration, Michael Bartels, who, according to his LinkedIn account, serves as a senior advisor in the Office of General Counsel within the U.S. Small Business Administration. Bartels did not have much to say in the chat, but he didn't offer any pushback against the offensive rhetoric in it either. He declined to comment. And folks, I want you to keep that in mind. Anybody who imagines to themselves that they will have a political future, they better keep this in mind if they're telling themselves that they're going to have any type of political future. By the way, The stuff y'all were doing in the dark, and if it finds its way to light, just remember, one day you're going to have to give an accounting about this. It'll be Judgment Day right here on Earth. So, yes, some of the politicians are smart enough to be quiet. A notarized affidavit signed by Bartles and obtained by Politico also sheds light on the intra-party rivalry that led the Restoyer War Room Telegram chat to be made public. Bartles references Wax as well. He wrote that he did not give Politico the chat and that Wax, quote, demanded in a phone call that he provide the full chat log. Okay, so, yeah, boy, I'm telling you, these folk know how to knock each other off, man. They know how to knock each other off, and if they get upset, then all of a sudden they out each other for political position. I'm like, why don't you do it because it's the right thing? It's the right thing every day. Not just because it serves you, it's the right thing every day. When I attempted to resist that demand after providing some of the requested information, okay, so these folks are all snitching on each other, Wax threatened my professional standing and raised the possibility of potential legal action related to an alleged breach of a non-disclosure agreement. Bartles claimed in the affidavit, my position within the New York Young Republicans Club was directly threatened. Okay. Walker, who now leads the New York State Young Republicans, touched on a similar theme, saying that he believes portions of the chat, quote, may have been altered, taken out of context, or otherwise manipulated, and that the private exchanges were obtained and released in a way clearly intended to inflict harm. He also apologized. So if you want to remember here who Walker is the spud there in the middle. So, yeah. These alpha men were apologizing. Mixed into formal conversations about whipping votes, social media strategy, and logistics, the members of the chat slung around an array of slurs, which Politico is republishing to show how they spoke. Epithets like, they said you're republishing it and then you don't publish it. So obviously you didn't. Somebody needs to tap them on the shoulder over there. This is the F word for gay, the British word for a cigarette, the British slang for a cigarette. Rhymes with maggot. Retarded and nigga appeared more than 251 times combined. Well, at least they did a tally of that. In one instance, let me go ahead and put the three of them back on your screen for you here. In one instance, Walker, who at the time was a staffer for Ort, talked about how a mutual friend of some in the chat, quote, dated this very obese Indian woman for a period of time. The pot calling the kettle black. All right. All right. I'll let you all decipher that right there. So he's got a problem with fat people. All right. He's got a problem with fat folk. I'm glad we got that out there. Giunta responded that the woman, quote, was not Indian. Quote, she just didn't bathe often. Samuel Douglas, a state senator from northern Vermont and the head of the state's Young Republicans, replied to Giunta. In a separate conversation, Giunta shared that his flight to Charleston, South Carolina landed safely. Then he offered some advice for his fellow Young Republicans. If your pilot is a she, and she looks 10 shades darker than someone from Sicily, just end it there. Scream the no word, Giunta wrote. Douglas did not respond to requests for comment. In a statement, Ort called for members of the chat to resign. Quote, I was shocked and disgusted to learn about the racist, anti-Semitic, and misogynistic comments. This is what you Republicans do every day. You can't be shocked. Walker had been in line to manage Republican Peter Oberacher's campaign for Congress in upstate New York, but a spokesperson for the campaign said Walker won't be brought on in light of the comments in the chat. But this is how you Republicans talk all the time. So why are you pretending it's limited to just them? The private rhetoric isn't happening in a vacuum. It comes amid a widespread coarsening of the broader political discourse and as incendiary and racially offensive tropes from the right become increasingly common in public debates. Then they talk about Trump's and the AI-generated theme of Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero. So they go on about that. And then they go reading a bunch of other stuff here, which I want to go ahead and get into. You all see who the three of them there were who were doing that. So I want to get into that. And there's a reason why I'm taking this slow here, folks. There's a reason why I'm doing this. When Luke Mosiman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, asked if the New Yorkers in the chat were watching an NBA playoff game, Giunta responded, "I'd go to the zoo if I want to watch monkeys play ball." Dude, you need to go to the zoo, the gym, the circus, a bike trail, a walking trail. You need to do something athletic, because this just sounds like hate. Giunta elsewhere refers to black people as the watermelon people. Dude, you need to eat some fruits and vegetables. Let me just make a very civil suggestion to you here, Mr. Giunta. You could stand to eat some watermelon, some celery, some lettuce, some tomatoes. You could really stand to benefit to incorporate some fruits and vegetables into your life. You can start with a watermelon, though I strictly recommend that you don't stop there. But by the way, yeah, while you're worried about that, you could stand to incorporate, some produce into that plate this evening. You would benefit tremendously. Hendricks made a similar remark in July. Quote, "Bro is at a chicken restaurant ordering his food. Would he like some watermelon and Kool-Aid with that?" Hey, to all three of y'all fellas, yeah, it looks like all of y'all got, a fast pass at Popeyes and Churches. So, yeah, all of y'all could stand some watermelon here. While y'all are talking here, a bunch of y'all could back off the fried food. Just to let you know, I see where a few of y'all could cut back on some of the deep fat fried food here. So, would you like some watermelon and Kool-Aid with that? The watermelon is the healthiest thing on your suggestions right there, dude. You could actually benefit from that, dude. Hendricks was a communications assistant for Kansas Republican Attorney General Chris Kobach until Thursday. Now, we all know Chris Kobach, white supremacist out of Kansas. So for those of you who don't know, I've been talking about that for a while. He also said in the chat that despite political differences, he's drawn to Missouri's young Republican organization because, quote, Missouri doesn't like maggots with an F. And y'all take a look at him. If he doesn't look like a big trans girl, who does? So looks like he's got some repressed energy there that he doesn't really have the alpha male traits or masculine traits. So he's doing a whole lot to signify that he's not gay. I guess he never consulted a stylist or something, but he's doing a whole lot to try to convince you he's not gay. And I'm just like, okay, do y'all see that? Okay. Politico reached out to Denidri Hebert, a spokesperson for the Attorney General who also serves as the Kansas GOP chair, and shared with her experts of the chat involving Hendricks. In response, Hebert said that, quote, "We are aware of the issues raised in your article, and Hendricks is no longer employed in Kobach's office." Okay, but white supremacist Kobach is still there. Let me go ahead and show you all on the screen some more of their text messages. Yeah, I had some back and forth with the vice chair in Michigan. Current chair is a deer in the headlights. We have a call Wednesday. Giunta said many agree. He did say, my delegates I bring will vote for the most right-wing person. So Giunta responded, great, I love Hitler. I think that's an Italian name too, by the way. I think that's an Italian name too. Let me take this as a moment to remind you all of something. I want to take this as a moment to remind you all about one thing here. When you see white supremacist Italians, when you see white supremacist Irish people, the Megyn Kellys, the Sean Hannitys, the Bill O'Reillys, when you see white supremacist Spaniards and Latinos, I want you to remember something. They are not officially part of the white club. What? As you'll all remember, at the beginning of the country, they were non-whites. Greeks, Italians, Spaniards, Irish. They were not white. I got to come back and remind you all, they were not white. At the turn of the 20th century, there were signs in the window, help wanted, Irish need not apply. They were not considered white people. That's not for just a day, or it got sussed out right after the Constitution. Up until the beginning of the 20th century, it wasn't until the 1920s that they finally got begrudgingly, by the Anglo population, folded into whiteness. And look how they all act. Now just remember that part. Look how they act. Now, what I just said is historical fact. Everything I just said is a historical fact, and everybody knows it. But I just wanted to remind you all that, by the way, yeah, the Irish, the Italians, the Greeks, and as soon as they got folded into whiteness, they took to white supremacy and anti-black racism like a duck to water. Never mind the fact that when the Constitution was written, they weren't really talking about you when they said white people. As a matter of fact, they specifically were excluding you. And yet, look how they behave to this very day. They've only had 100 years of official whiteness, 1 century of official whiteness. That's all they've had. And take a look at how they jumped into it. I just want to remind you all of that little historical fact. Just wanted to remind you. These people here have been doing this for a while. They've been doing this for a while, and they're hoping that people don't find out these things because they go out in public and swear them down. They never said anything like it. Never said anything like it. Back to the Politico article here. White supremacist symbols. Gibson reviewed multiple experts of the Young Republicans chat provided by Politico. One was a late July message where Mosiman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, mused about how the group could win support for their preferred candidate by linking an opponent to white supremacist groups. But Mosiman then realized the plan could backfire. Now, folks, he's saying that, hey, we could turn people against one of our political opponents by they could win support if you can link your political opponent to a white supremacist group. But he then says, wait a minute, no, that's not going to work. Kansas young Republicans could end up becoming attracted to that opponent. What? Yeah, he said, one of their political opponents, hey, we'll tell people that he's linked to white supremacists. Oh, wait a minute. That would make our people vote for him. Folks, that's not a joke. That's not a joke or a punchline. They're like, oh, wait a minute now. White supremacy would be resume enhancement. That's not a joke. That's not a joke. Want to show you what he said here. He said, quote, can we get them to start releasing Nazi edits with her, like pro-Nazi and, I guess, fascism propaganda, he asked the group. Ebonics, anyone? Quote, OMG, I love this plan. Rachel Hope, what a name, the Arizona Young Republicans events chair responded. So if you thought the white supremacist females weren't knee-deep off up in it, yes, they are. Quote, the only problem is we will lose the Kansas delegation, Mosiman said. Hope and the two Kansas Young Republicans in the chat reacted with a laughing face to the message. Hope did not respond to requests for comment. Mosiman declined to comment. Gibson said the Young Republicans' conversations reminded him of online discussions between members of neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups. Quote, you say it once or twice, it's a joke. But you say it 251 times, it's no longer a joke. The more we repeat certain ideas, the more real they become to us. Now, this isn't becoming real, it's already there. Weeks later, someone in the chat staying in a hotel asked its members to, quote, guess what room we're in? 1488, Dwyer responds. White supremacists use number 1488 because 14 is the number of the words in the white supremacist slogan, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. H is the 8th letter in the alphabet, and 88 is often used as a shorthand for Heil Hitler. In another conversation in February, Giunta talks approvingly about the Orange County Teenage Republican Organization in New York, which appears to be part of the network of national teenage Republicans, and how he was pleased with its young members' ideological bent. Quote, they support slavery and all that S. MAGA based. That's not a joke. There's nothing joking in there. There's nothing funny in there. There's nothing humorous. That's not a punchline. This is just good old-fashioned white supremacy right there. You would imagine that an individual would run from that as far as they could, but your vice president, in a unprecedented move since the American Civil War, only probably rivaled by the Dixiecrats, oh, he thought this was great. He thought this was fantastic. I'm not joking. I'll play it for you here in just a moment. Vicious words for enemies. Members of the Telegram chat speak about their personal lives too. Extensive discussions about their everyday lives include one exchange about how devoutly Catholic some chat members are and how often they attend church. Many of the slurs, epithets, and violent language used in the chat often appear to be intended as jokes. Mosiman was derided by members of the chat. Mosiman, the one from Arizona, they mentioned earlier. Well, guess what? The other members of the chat were calling him Beaner and the S word that rhymes with stick for Hispanics. Stay in the closet, F it. Walker of New York also jested in July, though he is the group's main target for the same epithet. So, yeah, the members of the group are calling each other gay like that. Is that really a joke, or are they making light of reality? The group used slurs against Asians too. Quote, my people built the train tracks with the Chinese, Walker says at one point, referring to his Italian ancestors. So two of these guys up here, Giunta and Walker, it looks like two of them at least are Italians. And by the way, this is how They understand the assignment to maintain your credibility and whiteness. You have to be, it's not enough to be white. You must be a white supremacist. What they are showing you is that it's a lie to say that you're just proud to be white. It's not enough to be white. You must be a white supremacist. When they say white, they mean white supremacy. Let his people go, Maligno responds. Keep the, I guess this is the C word for Chinese people though. In another instance, Mosiman tells the group that, quote, the Spanish came to America and had sex with every single woman. Sex is gay, Dwyer writes. What? This dude says sex is gay. All right. Sex, it was rape, Mosiman replies. Walker says epic. Here's the screen capture of them saying it. All right. So you mean now they were talking about another incident up here. There's someone named Hayden Paget. They don't like Hayden because Hayden defeated Giunta and was a re-elected chairman of the Young Republican National Federation this summer. So Giunta is upset because he got rejected when the vote came up. And it's like, dude, look in the mirror. So, of course, he's blaming everybody else except himself, and he's spewing pure vitriol. No wonder he likes Trump. Quote, so you mean Hayden F it? They love using that F word. Wrote the resolution himself, Giunta asked the group about the Young National Republicans chair in late May. Rape Hayden, Mosiman declared the following month. Adolph Paget is in the F it bunker as we speak, Walker said in July. Paget responded to the chat's language in a statement. So they're taking him down, racism, hate, so on and so forth. But by the way, hey, Paget, I'm sure they talk like this around you. I'm sure they talk like this around you. So why would you just say something now? I'm sure they talk this way around you. Why didn't you say something before? This is the Sam Douglas, who the Vermont state senator, by the way, and all of them just look like either J.D. Vance cavemen or Richard Spencer alt-right. That's the only thing they got. Giunta also had expletive-laden criticism for the Young Republicans in states that were supporting or leaning toward Paget's faction. Quote, Minnesota efforts, he messaged, continuing, Arkansas, inbred cow effers, Nebraska, revolt in our favor, block their bind and have a majority of their delegates, Maryland, fat stinky Jew, Rhode Island, traitorous, C word for female genitalia, who I will eradicate from the face of this planet. Giunta also said he planned to make one of the competing Young Republicans, quote, unalive himself on the convention floor. In another instance, Douglas, the Vermont state senator, pictured here, describes to the group members how one of Paget's Jewish colleagues may have made a procedural error related to the number of Maryland delegates permitted at the National Convention. Quote, I was about to say you're giving nationals too much credit and expecting the Jew to be honest. Breonna Douglas, Sam Douglas's wife, damn, and Vermont Young Republicans National Committee member replied to her husband's message. Breonna Douglas did not respond to repeated requests for comment. So, folks, we're not just talking about unelected people. You're talking about elected people. Where's Bernie Sanders to run this dude out of the state legislature? I know he's a U.S. senator, but where are the Democrats and these folks to run him out of the legislature now that you know what's really going on? By the way, they also been stealing money apparently or whatever, so, that's going on. So you all see the things they were saying up here. You see what this was. This is indefensible. Totally indefensible. So, of course, J.D. Vance goes on the Charlie Kirk show and is asked about this. And, well, J.D. Vance, he gives a very uniting, positive message to the nation on what you just heard. Now, you heard that every single person who read that, every single person who heard it, including Republicans, condemned it across the board. But not J.D. Luftwaffe Vance. Not him. J.D. the brown shirt had something else to say.
You're making a little bit of news here yesterday on X, formerly known as Twitter, about this Politico story, but I think it ties in because we're talking about the celebratory nature of some, not many, maybe not most, but some, and it was disgusting about Charlie's assassination. There is a story, and I believe the two stories are connected, that came out of Politico yesterday. Blake, explain this for our audience, for those who don't know.
We don't need to wallow in it too much, but so Politico has a story where somehow they got their hands on something like 28,000 messages in some group chat of, I think, 12 people that nobody's ever heard of, but they decided to just publish every single.
So you see these white supremacist liars at Charlie Kirk and Turning Point to this very day. They're just continuing to lie. Nobody ever heard of. Dude, they're mobbed up with your state senators. They're mobbed up with Trump. They're mobbed up with elected officials. And then you're talking about nobody ever heard of them. So, of course, he's lying. If nobody ever heard of them, they would just be condemning them right out of the gate. But that's not what they do. He says nobody ever heard of them, and then they start defending them. That's called minimizing.
Single thing in this chat, whatever they found that they thought was the most salacious. And I think 10 years ago, there would have been a very different response to it. But people are starting to learn from this, and the vice president is one of the reasons why. So you tweeted this. This is far worse than... So what you did is, instead of reacting to the story itself, you just posted what Jay Jones, our friend in Virginia who's running for AG as the Democrat, had said, where he wanted his political opponents to die. And then when someone thought he might be kidding, he called to, make it clear, actually, it wasn't a joke. I was serious. That's how people change their mind. And you just pointed out, quote, this is far worse than anything said in any college group chat. And the guy who said it could become the AG of Virginia.
College group chat. The white supremacists are liars because they have to be. These were not college students. These were not college students. Of course, J.D. Vance is a psychotic, pathological liar, but they're not college students. Hendricks is 24 years old. Dwyer, who I mentioned before, 29 years old. These are not kids. You're talking about the elected officials. Now you're talking about 40 years old. So these were not college students. So why are they telling those lies? Because white supremacy is about lying. You don't have the truth. Man, just deflect and lie your ass off and hope that nobody actually catches it. So this is what they're reduced to.
Refuse to join the pearl clutching when powerful people call for political violence. And we have 14 million views on that.
Yeah.
And
just a little viral, Mr. Vice President.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll let the tweet speak for itself. I'll say a couple of additional things. First of all, a person who is very politically powerful, who is about to become one of the most powerful law enforcement officers in the country, that person seriously wishing for political violence and political assassination is 1,000 times worse than what a bunch of young people, a bunch of kids say in a group chat, however offensive it might be. That's just reality.
Notice he's not telling you why what they said is okay. He's deflecting to something else. You were asked about that chat, and you're deflecting to everything except what you were asked about. So when you have something this indefensible, you're supposed to run from it, but he's trying to redeem it. And instead of him shutting up, he basically ends his political career.
And if you allow yourself to be distracted by this person's incredible endorsement, disgusting endorsement of political assassination by focusing on what kids are saying in a group chat. Grow up. I'm sorry. Focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chats. But there's another angle to this that I just have to be honest about. I mean, I'm like an old guy.
Remember, black 10-year-olds are men. Remember, in the world of white supremacist J.D. Vance, black 10-year-olds are men. Trayvon Martin's a man, 17 years old. Trayvon Martin's a man. You got 25 and 29-year-olds, and he's calling them kids. They're only a decade younger than him, and he's calling them kids. So white supremacists are liars, of course.
This one, I'm 41 years old. I have 3 kids. Chats, but there's another angle to this that I just have to be honest about. I mean, I'm like an old guy at this point. I'm 41 years old. I have 3 kids. I grew up in a different world, right? Where not most of the stupid things that I did when I was a teenager and a young adult, they're not on the internet. Like, I'm going to tell my...
Oh, really, JD? I would like to see some of that stuff. Eventually it's going to come to light. So, by the way, he's letting us all know that one day there are some other things that might drop. So we'll be very glad to cement your legacy for you, JD.
I have 3 kids. I grew up in a different world, right? Where not most of the stupid things that I did when I was a teenager and a young adult, they're not on the internet. Like, I'm going to tell my kids, especially my boys, don't put things on the internet. Like, be careful with what you post. If you put something in a group chat, assume that some scumbag is going to leak it in an effort to try to cause you harm or cause your family harm.
So he's condemning the person who revealed the white supremacist. He is defending and comforting the white supremacist in the chat, and he's attacking the person who exposed these races. Talk about a little fat, pudgy, weak little wish he were a gangster. He is the most marshmallow wannabe gangster clown you ever met in your life. He's going to be the guy coming back telling you all about morality, by the way. You just heard him. He attacked the person who did the right thing. White supremacists do not have morality. They have an agenda. They have an ideology. They don't have morality.
When I was a teenager and a young adult, they're not on the internet. Like, I'm going to tell my kids, especially my boys, don't put things on the internet. Like, be careful with what you post. If you put something in a group chat, assume that some scumbag is going to leak it in an effort to try to cause you harm or cause your family harm. But the reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. Like, that's what kids do. And I really don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive stupid joke, is cause to ruin their lives. And at some point...
Calling people niggers hundreds of times, calling people monkeys, that's, quote, edgy. Okay, well, when they made jokes about Charlie Kirk's assassination, that's edgy too. And JD didn't defend anybody making edgy jokes about Charlie Kirk. Why, he wanted you to be arrested for making jokes. The governor of Texas, we want you arrested for making jokes. So JD Vance didn't defend anybody's right to make edgy jokes. Except when you're being a white supremacist, all of a sudden, oh, those are edgy jokes. Well, JD, you look stupid. I mean, you look stupid on the regular day, but by the way, dude, nobody knows how white supremacists you are till you start talking, dunce.
And I really don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive stupid joke, is cause to ruin their lives. And at some point, we're all going to have to say, enough of this BS. We're not going to allow the worst moment in a 21-year-old's group chat to ruin a kid's life for the rest of time. That's just not okay. Like, we live in a digital world. This stuff is now etched in stone online. We're all going to have to say, you know what? No. We're not doing this. We're not canceling kids because they do something stupid in a group chat. And if I have to be the person who carries that message forward, I'm fine with it. And by the way, you're making a little bit of news. Like, we live in...
Folks, here's the problem. JD the Doughboy Vance, Here's the issue, dude. You and Trump only won by 1 or 2 percentage points. You don't have any sort of moral mandate. The country doesn't idolize you. We don't admire you. We don't want to be like you. You're not somebody we want to be at a restaurant with. You're not somebody we want to hang out with. You're a clown and a joke and a reprobate and a degenerate. So you're not somebody who can sit here and say, hey, everybody, let me call you all together. We have to make a decision. Who the hell are you calling we? Who do you think you're calling we? Ain't no we here. You're not welcome in our circles. You're not welcome any place outside the psycho White House. You don't have any sort of authority or standing or status to be able to stand among us and talk about what we need to do. You need to kiss our black asses is what you need to do. But you cannot call us together and tell us what it's going to be. The other thing here is this is what happens when you live in a world of white privilege. You start telling yourself that that's a real thing. You start telling yourself that that's somehow a real thing. That you really got something. You start lying and telling yourself that, well, when we lie, everybody gonna roll along with it. You don't realize when you've overextended yourself. Now, there's a point I would like to go ahead and make here. I told you I was going to talk about this later. There's a point I want to go ahead and make for you all here is that do you all notice who ain't talking? Trump's not talking. He's sending out his little doughboy do boy, but Trump ain't talking. Did you notice that? See, I told you all during the campaign that J.D. Vance will not be running in 2028. They're going to make sure that he is too crippled and damaged and hobbled to be able to do so. So the way you do that is you make him say absolutely stupid, inexcusable things like this. Trump pushes folk out there to say the craziest stuff. And then once they've gone ahead and done it, now they can't take it back. Oh, he held back. He didn't go as far as you did. That manipulating old bastard sends them out there to go do that. And now you're the one they're going to be quoting. If you try to run, you've given everybody an endless reservoir of ammunition. You haven't done anything. Nobody wants to talk about your stupid inbred book. They're going to talk about what you did while you were vice president, and then they're going to bring this up. Why didn't you condemn that as white supremacy? You thought that was a joke? You think gassing people and raping people and slavery, you think slavery's a joke? He's already getting his ass handed to him in interviews with George Stephanopoulos. This is how much of a neophyte he is. Trump sent him out there to be the crash dummy. And he crashed like a dummy. He looks like one of those old garbage pail kid cards. And they sent this idiot out there knowing that this will ensure he never has a future. Which was the entire point. The point was to ensure that JD makes himself so offensive, so reprehensible, so unacceptable that he doesn't have a future. He doesn't get one. Yeah, if y'all never heard the Garbage Pail Kids, some of y'all, I'm showing my age, but you can go look him up. For those of you who are old enough to remember, if you shaved him, wouldn't he look like one of the Garbage Pail Kids? So you all can go look that up if you want to, for those of you who are a little bit younger. But they sent him out to go say this insanity, knowing that it can't be defended. You see, they did the same thing. Listen to me, folks. I told y'all years ago, they did the same thing with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis could try the faux Latino thing all he wanted to. He thought he was going to do the Jeff Bezos thing all he wanted to. I told you all, DeSantis, that white supremacist garbage he does, that don't play outside of Florida. That plays in Florida. It doesn't play anywhere outside of Florida. Did I call it or did I call it? I told you all, he ain't going nowhere. Ron DeSantis thinks he's running for president. Nobody else does, but he thinks he does. He thinks he's running for president. All he's doing is making an ass of himself. People, he got nowhere. Ron DeSantis got absolutely nowhere. When he attempted to run, he was nowhere in the polls. I told you all from the very beginning, he has no chance. He's not going anywhere. He said too damn much and done too damn much. They didn't tell themselves we are lucky to be in the White House. They told themselves, see, America wants white supremacy. Then they tried to run on it, and I'll be damned, there it goes. Nikki Haley, same thing, another jackass. She thought she was running for president. Baby, you ain't running nothing but your mouth. I called that one too. And Trump made both of those two jackasses do the walk of shame at the Republican National Convention. He made both of them walk out there and kiss his big, pale, flabby, wrinkled ass. And just as soon as he got to the White House, he said, yeah, we don't fool with no Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's a nobody. We don't fool with Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's political career is all the way over. And so is Ron DeSantis. And so is J.D. Vance. He's done too. Donald J. Trump don't look out for nobody except Donald J. Trump. And I told you all this during the election. I told you this immediately after the election. Go back and go play the program. I told y'all Trump chose J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance has to be a flack and a lackey. And he's going to break J.D. Vance's kneecaps and make sure that J.D. Vance cannot assemble or amass power for himself. So you send him out to say this absolutely unacceptable stuff because this will make it impossible for him to amass any power for himself. Everybody's going to be playing this against him. It's over for him. I said this a year ago that he's going to keep Vance around, but he's going to make sure he's weak. He's not going to have you there ready to challenge him. He is not going to allow you to become strong enough to challenge him, not in office, not after he's in office. So he's going to hobble you now. And they send you over there to go not just right-wing racist, but white racist Nazi. He sends you out to go do that. And he done hung back. He's on the damn golf course. While he's letting you say things that he knows will make it impossible for you to run. And you sitting up here drinking the Kool-Aid and breathing the Nazi breeze and telling yourself, don't worry, Trump is going to endorse me at some point. He has to. I'm his vice president. He's going to have to endorse me. Trump's not going to help anybody. Hell, he's going to be fighting extradition and prison sentences as soon as he leaves office. He's got bigger fish to fry. But one damn thing is for certain and two things for show. Nobody's looking out for you, JD. You took the damn bait. You see, JD, here's what happens when you're just raised in white supremacist circles around nothing but white supremacists. You all start believing you're garbage. You believe one election turns the tide of American social order. How delusional and stupid do you have to be? You have to be JD Vance dumb. I sat here and told you all one election is not going to change things for us. One election is an event, but it's insignificant. We're going to need at least 2 to 3 presidential cycles before it really sinks into people that this is the new normal. We ain't bull jiving around. I've been saying that since 2016. I've been saying it for a decade now. J.D. Vance and Trump still don't get it. You won one election. That's it. And then telling themselves, see, the rest of the world loves us. And when it turns against them, what are they going to do then? They're going to cry and pitch and moan. JD's done. I mean, he can hang out with Peter Thiel. But as far as politics, dude, you're a done deal. You're going to be radioactive. Nobody's going to let this sound clip go. No one's going to let this go. This was his Ron DeSantis moment. This was J.D. Vance's Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley moment. They tell themselves that the whole country's white supremacist. The white population has gone below 60%. Dude, you're not going to make it. No, white supremacy is not going to be the way you're going to get the job done. They didn't get the damn memo. They're still swinging the white supremacist flag like that's a cure-all and fixes everything. And like black folk are just, we just love white supremacy now. It's like, dude, you don't get it. You're as dumb as you look, which means pretty dumb. Instead of him consulting with somebody, he didn't bother to do that. I went a little long here, but I want to cover those things. But you know what? This does bring up a different issue here. Brings up a different issue. While the Republicans are chasing pure, unadulterated white supremacy, Barack Obama put up a post on Twitter today to let us all know that the Tower of Barack, is under construction in Chicago. Y'all, who in the deep fat fried hell chose this music? Who in the hell chose this music, man? So to any moron, idiot, baby boomer, butt-kissing jackass, whoever told yourselves that Barack Obama was a humble fella and that he wasn't a blatant narcissist, people, this thing is going to cost almost $1 billion.
Nigga, what?
When they get done with this thing, it's going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 billion. It's not even a mega tall skyscraper, but it's going to end up costing almost $1 billion. Look it up for yourselves. A library that costs almost $1 billion. And you're going to spend $1 billion and this is what you're going to get. So you can go to some cathedral. I rebooted my computer here. I made some changes on my computer, so I'm having some stuff happening here. All right. Let me go ahead and play it for you all one more time. One more again. Let me put some earmuffs on. Yeah, nothing says humility standing atop the Tower of the Tower of Barack, looking down on all the little people. Nothing says humble like that. Wait up, y'all. Hold on a second. Is this nigga wearing his campaign Obama O logo like he's damn me Green Lantern?
Nigga, what?
People, this is a construction site. Is he really wearing his campaign Obama logo like this nigga is the Yellow Lantern from DC Comics? Is this real? He can't just have on, a yellow construction vest. They can't just, it's got to have people, narcissism much? Conceit much? Vanity much? Not just him, but him and her. Oh, he wants you to know he CDO. I mean, man. Y'all remember that time at that funeral Dick Cheney was wearing the jacket that said Cheney on the back of it like he was a mascot? I guess Obama said, okay, is this a requisite so everybody on the site has to, he's got the damn logo for all the construction safety vests? Everybody's got to work. You can't just work on the damn site. Everybody's got to have because that don't look like him or Michelle. This looks like two other people here now. Wow. Yeah, y'all, I'm just saying. He don't just have safety vests. It's like, oh no, we are the Justice League. So he is still promoting himself. An absolute disgrace. He is an embarrassment and a disgrace. And he's still out here shamelessly, proudly promoting himself. Him and the Tower of Mordor. Damn! So if you want to know what the Democrats are doing, they're doing important things, people. They're doing very, very important things. The Democrats are doing some real important stuff. They're doing important things like vetoing a bill that would have granted priority college admission for descendants of slavery. Speaking of people other than J.D. Vance who have sunk their political careers, Gavin Newsom is back at it again. And your Humpty eyes do not deceive you. This is from the LA Times, people. From the LA Times. Now, I want you to understand these are the first words. What I'm about to read to you are the first words from this article by Katie King, who looks like a female garbage pail kid. These are the first words of the article. Legal experts were divided on whether the law will survive court challenges, with some calling it an unconstitutional racial proxy.
Oh, please.
No, I'm not making it up. I mean, they invented a brand new term. When black folks show up, all of a sudden they invented a brand new term. Unconstitutional racial proxy. Now, you all never heard that term before tonight. All of a sudden, here comes something new. Oh, well, no, it's not. You can't prove that's race. This isn't about race. This is about lineage. It's a racial proxy. Racial proxy? What the hell is that? Show us a previous example of racial proxy where you use that term, or is that something that just came up tonight? The measure rejected by the governor, she didn't put any commas here, avoided mentioning race directly, instead focusing on ancestry. But critics argued it was designed to circumvent affirmative action bans. People, this is from the LA Times. This is not from me. This is from the LA Times. They're the ones saying this, not me. The LA Times is saying it. Dateline Sacramento. Governor Gavin Newsom on Monday, the 13th. Well, the article is written on the 13th, so that was Monday. Governor Gavin Newsom on Monday vetoed legislation that would have allowed public and private colleges to provide preferential admissions to applicants directly descended from individuals who were enslaved in the United States before 1900. The governor thanked the bill's author for his commitment to addressing disparities and urged educational institutions to review and determine, quote, how, when, and if this type of preference can be adopted. Quote, this bill clarifies, to the extent permitted by federal law, that California public and private post-secondary educational institutions may consider providing a preference in admissions to an applicant who is a descendant of slavery. How is that any different from somebody who's a descendant of Native Americans? Newsom wrote Monday in his veto, quote, these institutions already have the authority to determine whether to provide admissions preferences like this one, and accordingly, this bill is unnecessary. Did you get that? Oh, well, this bill is unnecessary. The legislation would not have required applicants to belong to any particular race or ethnicity, a crucial detail that proponents said distinguished it from affirmative action, which is banned at California colleges. Critics, however, don't you mean yourself, Katie, argued the term slave was used as a proxy for race. See, folks, when you show up, all of a sudden, here comes a new nigga law. They told you what the rules were. We abided by the rules, and they're coming back saying, wait, no. And you notice how she keeps pointing out that you have avoided talking about race, which is in line with, which this puts it directly in line with, if you want to say any affirmative action, okay, we're not talking about race. You said no race. We're avoiding race altogether. This is in line with all these other things. Were your parents in the Japanese internment camps? Were your parents in the Nazi Holocaust camps? Okay, were your parents in the American slave camps? They're saying now, everybody else, that's good for you. Oh, no. Now, if Jewish people were saying this, this wouldn't be happening. If Jewish people were saying this, they would not be objecting. They go on to say that legal experts told the Times last month the measure probably would have faced challenges in court if the governor signed it into law. Okay, that didn't stop them from doing Prop 8. Folks, that doesn't stop them in California. California's probably the most litigious state in America. So every law gets challenged in court in California. That ain't nothing. Every law that gets passed in California gets challenged in court. All of a sudden, they're telling all of us, wait now. I mean, we know that every law that gets passed in California gets challenged in court. We know that. But see, this law you want could get challenged in court. So others get challenged in court. Yours will get challenged in court. So, see, we really can't have that. Quote, The question with this sort of provision is, does this count as on the basis of race? Said Ralph Richard Banks, professor at Stanford Law School and the founder and faculty director of the Stanford Center for Racial Justice. Quote, a secondary issue is going to be whether, even if it is not formally about racial classification, was it really adopted to get around the no racial classification rule? The law prohibits indirect methods of doing something that would be prohibited if you were to do it directly. Now, folks, isn't this amazing? Corporations circumvent things all the time. There's a difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance. We show up and all of a sudden, the bottom line is, what you have to admit is that you were looking at the people who came to you with this law, and the people making the decisions are not colorblind. If black folks show up, oh hell no, we ain't doing that. Everybody else, okay, let's make sure y'all are okay. Illegal aliens is a workaround for Latinos in California. And yet when we show up, all of a sudden, wait now. Wait, hold on now. Race-based college admissions are banned by federal and state law. Proposition 209, which California voters approved nearly 3 decades ago, amended the state constitution to bar colleges from considering race, sex, national origin, or ethnicity during admissions. Notice they didn't say anything about whether you're trans or something. The U.S. Supreme Court in 2023, in effect, ended race-conscious college admissions nationwide, ruling in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard that such policies violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So do you all see how the writer of this article, I've told you all now going on 2 decades, don't let folk lie to you about quote-unquote liberal California or the liberal LA Times. The LA Times in this article sounds exactly no different than Fox News. So white supremacists everywhere, they argue about issues that they make you all think are really, really deep and serious. The only deep and serious issue for them is white supremacy and maintaining it. And when you show up, everybody gets on code. You show up and all of a sudden, the LA Times sounds identical to Fox News. All of a sudden, this article right here didn't say anything positive or good about it. If they were talking about LGBT, they'd be talking about these other folk hating and standing in the way. If they were talking about illegal aliens, they're talking about folk hating and standing in the way. For this right here, she hasn't said a positive word about it yet. Everything is, you know this is no good. You know this is workaround. You know this is shady. You know this is janky. You know you can't do this. Everything she's saying is negative. And this comes down from, I think, the Asian fellow who owns the Times. This all comes down from the top. Just remember that. Newsom on Monday also vetoed bills that would have assisted descendants of slaves for some state programs. Those included legislation that would have required licensing boards within the Department of Consumer Affairs to expedite applications from people who are descendants, and a bill to set aside funds from a state program providing financial assistance for first-time home buyers. California became the first state government in the country to study reparations, so y'all see that study thing is nothing but a lie. Efforts to remedy the lingering effects of slavery and systemic racism after the 2020 killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. See how long she goes on this sentence. The killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer sparked a national conversation on racial justice. We've been talking about this way before George Floyd, ma'am. Newsom and state lawmakers passed a law to create a, quote, first-in-the-nation task force to study and propose effective ways to help atone for the legacy of slavery. Yeah, but then don't do anything. That panel spent years working on a 1,080-page report on the effects of slavery and discriminatory practices, policies sanctioned by the government after slavery was abolished. And the findings became the genesis for a slate of legislation proposed by the California Legislative Black Caucus. Last week, Newsom signed Senate Bill 518, which will create an office called the Bureau of Descendants of American Slavery. That bureau will create a process.
Nigga, what?
That bureau will create a process to determine whether someone is the descendant of a slave and to certify someone's claim to help them access benefits. People, help them access benefits. What benefits? He just vetoed a bill that would offer any benefits. Every time you talk about the benefits they'll receive, he vetoes it. So why do you need a bureau to study the benefits you'll receive when they're vetoing the benefits? So you'll have a bureau that says, yep, you're a descendant of American slaves. You've proved it. Okay, about my benefits. Yeah, we vetoed the benefits. Yeah, the benefits are illegal. It would be illegal to give you any benefits, so we'll identify you as a descendant of American slaves, but giving you any benefits would be illegal. So, no benefits. Brother Neely Fuller told you white supremacy takes both sides of an argument. Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, Democrat, Los Angeles, who introduced Assembly Bill 7, said his legislation would have allowed a college to grant preference to the descendants of enslaved people in order to rectify a, quote, legacy of exclusion of harm. Andrew Canillo, an attorney specializing in equality issues for the Pacific Legal Foundation, believes AB 7 was blatantly unconstitutional. The foundation is a conservative public interest law firm that seeks to prevent government overreach. Mr. Andrew Canillo, quote, this was a bill that was born out of the Reparations Task Force recommendations. It was part of the package of bills of the Road to Repair from the California Legislative Black Caucus. So this is a very clear racial intent and racial purpose, and it will have a racial effect, he said. Legislation, quote, doesn't have to benefit the entirety or even the majority of a demographic in order for it to be unlawfully based on race. Well, then in that case, if Donald Trump is bringing over white South Africans, where's Mr. Canillo? And where's Ed Blum? Where are they? That's damned unconstitutional. And yet Mr. Canillo is nowhere to be found. Sir, I think the only person concerned about race is a white supremacist like yourself. Even if you're Latino, and I think we figured out where you are. Lisa Holder, a civil rights attorney and president of the Equal Justice Society, a progressive nonprofit that works to protect policies that promote diversity, argued the measure's framing made it highly likely to satisfy legal challenges. Quote, this legislation is very specifically tailored to correct the harms that we have seen, the harms from the past that continue in the present, she said. Because this bill seeks to erase those harms by focusing specifically on the descendant community, it is strong enough to establish a compelling interest. So take a look at how far down I had to read. Look how far down I had to go before the writer of this article cites someone who says, actually, because of the way in which this thing is constructed, it's actually very likely to satisfy any legal challenges. So look how far deep down in the article that she buried this. This is the LA Times, people, a newspaper that will tell you there's something wrong with you if you don't allow grown men to go in the bathroom with your daughter. A newspaper that will tell you if you don't allow grown men to discuss anal sex with your children in the classroom or outside of it. The same newspaper that will sit up here and tell you nobody's illegal, even if you're illegal. And yet this comes up and all of a sudden they turn into Bill O'Reilly and Fox News. Gary Orfield, a law and education professor and co-founder of the civil rights project Proyecto Derechos Civiles at UCLA, agreed the legislation was carefully written in a way that could have withstood legal challenges. He pointed out that California allows university programs that support Native American students. What did I just tell you? What did I just tell you? He pointed out that California allows university programs that support Native American students, $5 Indian white folk, by the way, because they were narrowly tailored to focus on tribal affiliation, which is considered a political classification instead of race or ethnicity. And folks, I'm about to say something here tonight. I'm going to get to it here in just a moment. So glad he said this here tonight. Orfield said applicants of various races could have potentially benefited from the new admissions policy, as many Native Americans were enslaved and Asiatic coolieism, or Asian indentured servitude, was declared a form of human slavery in the state constitution in 1879. Problem: they were not slaves. They were not slaves. They were not people's property. But I want y'all to understand, do you see how they're going to go back and say, well, in 1879, we can include all these other people. So for those of you who thought that this was a new political tactic in the 1960s, that anything you do for black folk, you have to bundle in a bunch of other people too. Oh, this is old, folks. This is old. This is old, people. They're talking about the state constitution in 1879. This is old. So every time that they discuss doing something for black folk, they look to drop in a poison pill. This goes all the way back to antebellum slavery itself. If you do anything for black folk, if it does get through, make sure you interject a poison pill. Back in 1879. Quote, all black people weren't slaves, and all slaves were not black.
Nigga, please.
Nigga, what?
He said, I think there is a good argument to say that slavery isn't defined strictly by race and is not just a proxy for race, and there is certainly a legitimate concern when you're thinking about remediation for historic violations. Well, folks, you know what? I want to tell you something here. If that's going to be your definition, I demand that you keep that energy. If that's going to be the way you want to play it, then I simply must insist that you keep that energy. You don't get to say those words when it's convenient and back off of it otherwise. We don't get to do that right there. See, here's what we're talking about here, folks. We're going to need to define what is a slave. We're going to have to define what is a slave. Because you see, I've told you all here before, if you are a person who has specifically stated that you're not a slave, you're not a descendant of slaves, you have disassociated yourself from the identity of slaves, you don't get to jump up now and say all of a sudden, oh, wait. I had an indentured servant who worked on the railroad. No. So to everybody out there, in case you were thinking that these folks weren't going to sit up here and be slick, slimy, greasy, white supremacists to the end, if you thought they was just going to give it up, oh no, folks, they are not just going to do that. They are not. They're not. They're letting you know that they are going to fight this every single inch of the way. Furthermore, you can't claim to be a slave, and we can sit up here and prove, by the way, you were the white supremacists. So these other folks will never be able to pass muster in that regard. They'll never be able to do that. But I want you all to understand they're already hard at work trying to dilute it down. They're already hard at work. I told you all from the beginning, they are not going to just give it up that easy. They're hard at work trying to dilute it down. Orfield, however, said convincing the public was a different matter. Quote, I don't think all people will easily understand this, he said. They already understand it. Americans tend to think that discrimination doesn't cross over multiple generations, but I think it does. I think there has been a long-lasting effect. When Jewish people say that it has a generational effect, nobody argues. Nobody argues about it until the most discriminated against people who suffer the most. When we show up, all of a sudden, and nothing's generational anymore. When we show up, all of a sudden, everything's fine. So I want to take this as a reminder for you all that, yes, the message did get through, but Gavin Newsom tells himself that Donald Trump is going to screw up so badly that the American people will be so exhausted and exasperated by Trump that when Newsom announces he wants to run for president, he will at least seem like a more acceptable option. And so he is deciding to cut his teeth by throwing black folk under the bus. I want to also make another thing here clear. You see, y'all remember Bruce's Beach. You all remember Bruce's Beach, and there were some people who were unhappy with me. Some people were unhappy with me about my response about Bruce's Beach. When I specifically said, if Gavin Newsom thinks that throwing us a little old crumb off the table is going to reverse his fortunes and get all of us to see him, he's the Lord and Savior. He's the one we need to get behind. Remember, I told y'all he got another thought coming. You're not going to throw one token example out there that you didn't even allow to go to fruition. You're not going to just throw one little token bone off the table and then all's forgiven and forgotten and everything's okay. Dude, you got a lot more you need to do. Our whole point is that you are not going to hand pick any people. Y'all been doing this garbage now for centuries where you hand pick specific Negroes. We'll handpick this one here. We'll handpick this little family over here. And everybody else is on the outside looking in. That's the game they always play. So they find a person, okay, we'll do something for just them. And this is symbolic for the rest of you that things have changed. Is symbolically, we do something for one person that you don't even let them keep. And then we're all supposed to accept that was symbolically given to all of us. See, they did something for one of us here. They think about them old civil rights niggas who go around talking about the first Negro. We ain't worried about the first Negro. We worry about all of them. So when I saw Gavin Newsom do that, y'all saw I was on his ass. Pause from the very beginning. I never let that go. I was never satisfied with it. Y'all can go back and look at my programs about Bruce's Beach. I never let that go. I never said he was out the woods. I never said it was okay. I immediately said, now what about the rest of them? Oh yeah, and one more thing. Cut the check. Where's the rest of it, Gavin? You're not going to throw out one symbolic token bone and then all of us are going to say, okay, everything else gets a pass. We'll just be satisfied with that, and we'll wade in the water, children, and we shall overcome till they decide to bestow one more thing on the next family in another 90 years. We want to open the doors for everybody, not for select individuals. You owe the group as a collective, and you need to compensate the group as a collective, not as case-by-case basis. Our whole goal is to break this log jam where you select individual Negroes on a case-by-case basis, and that case-by-case basis is to make sure that it doesn't do very much for very many people. It will have a very limited effect. It's very contained. It's very controlled. You can just go ahead and slack out this little charity right here, but it doesn't have any widespread effect that could change the status quo. That's the whole reason for hand-picking Negroes, hand-picking individuals, to make sure that the effect of what they do is very, very limited. So it's always a game where they want to make sure if we do something, it doesn't really change anything. And then he thought he was going to make a big headline to make a big splash, and then everything was going to be great and gravy after that. He made a headline and a splash, and oh, take a look at what I did, and that niggas are going to be eternally grateful. And we'll be talking about what good Master Newsom did when he gave Bruce's Beach back to their family. Oh, doesn't that make you plantation niggas feel so much better? And then he looked back over here and realized, dude, that ain't satisfied nothing. You supposed to do that. We're not going to sit up here and pat your ass on the back for something you're supposed to do. We're not demanding something extra, people. Get that out of your damn skulls. We're not demanding something extraordinary. This is what they're supposed to do. We're owed this. This isn't some special dispensation of charity. Bastard, you owe this. They want you all thinking it's something extraordinary. This is not extraordinary. They owe us this. They owe us this and a hell of a lot more. So when Newsom did that, y'all saw we was back on his ass talking about, by the way, we got past reparations now. Man, everything went downhill for him. He thought he was going to throw out one token jive talking gesture and everything else would be gravy. Then he turned his ass around and found out, no, it ain't going to be nothing like that. Nothing like that. So he realizes now, yeah, we're not going to be easily placated. No, you're not going to throw out any token bones. Yes, we want everything you're supposed to give. We're not going to sell it for symbolic gestures. No, we haven't forgotten. And when you decide to run for president, we're going to be right there to remind you the only thing we remember is all the stuff you vetoed. So the policy will be anybody but Newsom. He thought we were going to forget. Now he's realizing, oh, that's not going to work. So I'm just telling you all what he's going to do. He's going to sit up here and think to himself, well, I'll just hang back in the cut and hope Trump messes up. And hopefully he screws up so badly that enough people are demanding an alternative and me and Nancy Pelosi will rig the game so I can win the nomination. And then y'all will have no choice but to vote for me, even if it's begrudgingly. And I'm like, by the way, you and J.D. Vance will be in a foot race for that one now, won't you? The both of you two feckless white supremacist bastards will be making a foot race for that one. Gavin Newsom had an opportunity to change the status quo. He wanted to show everybody, by the way, California ain't let the white supremacy go yet. I'm like, okay, thank you for reminding everyone. Thank you for reminding us. We wouldn't want that to get too far out the damn way now, would we? But thank you for reminding us exactly who you really are and what you really about. We wouldn't want anyone to get confused when they see you there. We wouldn't want anyone confused. Wouldn't want that to happen. Now, I want to go back to J.D. Vance right quick here before we take an interlude for a moment. People, I know some of you are worried. Some of you are scared. Some of you are talking about the Voting Rights Act being gutted. People, when was the Voting Rights Act actually enforced properly? The Voting Rights Act benefited the Democratic Party. Please tell me what the Voting Rights Act did for us. Tell me what it did for us. Helped a bunch of Democrats promote a bunch of house niggas, but you can't actually show us what it did for us as individuals. I can tell you what it did for the Democrat Party. So don't let folks sit up here and scare you with that. You better vote Democrat or you'll lose the Voting Rights Act. Power does what power wants to do. Power does what power wants to do. They were not protecting us when the Voting Rights Act was in effect. People, they weren't protecting us with the Voting Rights Act in the first place. They weren't protecting us then. Y'all gonna lose affirmative action. Affirmative action wasn't benefiting us then. You were giving it to your white daughters, which was the goal all along. You can't name any of these, quote, programs or laws that actually benefited us, which is the whole point. So now they want to try to frighten you. Let me explain something to you all right now. This is good. Damn! I want the white supremacists out in the open. I want the bigots and the naysayers, all the folk who said that this wasn't what was going on. And I want them to do the whole damn 9 yards. Vivek Ramaswamy was running his ass around. He thinks he's going to become governor of Ohio. He thinks he is. We've already covered that before. He thinks he's going to be governor of Ohio. He went to a Turning Point USA event here a little while ago, and them white folk at Turning Point roasted his ass and said, hey, ain't you a Hindu? You keep talking about God, but you don't say that you're not a Christian. You don't say you're not a Christian, so you're talking about Vishnu. You're not talking about Jehovah. You're a phony. He went to that event, y'all. You can go look it up online. They ate his ass up. That was supposed to be his home turf audience, and all they were doing was roasting him. Yeah, this is the point where you realize we wasn't bull-jiving when we said you ain't like them folk. You've been kissing they damn asses thinking that, okay, being an anti-black racist will satisfy them. I'm like, dude, they ain't got no love for you. You're a useful tool and now a useful idiot, but they ain't got no love for you. And now he's getting the boots put to him. Now he's starting to realize, oh, I can't be governor with these folk. Well, he doesn't have a black base to call on, so, oh boy, it's going to be rough on him. And I wanted the white supremacists to get where they are because you see in Latino society, in Jewish society, in Asian society, in immigrant society, they were telling all of us that you descendants of the slaves, y'all just lazy and need to work harder and ain't no racism. And George Zimmerman was just defending himself and Eric Garner should have complied. That's what they've been saying to us all this time. And I'm like, you know what? We just need to fall back, let the dogs have them. Now you see that from Vermont to San Diego, take a peek inside their group chats. Man, they ain't just talking about black folk. They ain't got no love for none of y'all. And yes, even if they're screwed up and contradictory, Nick Fuentes, okay, dude, you're a little Hispanic. I want to be a white supremacist. So, 2 Italians with the Young Republicans. You're not really white, but no, we're talking about the Jews. Okay, but those are the folks y'all enabled. Those are the people you act like you don't know they're white supremacists. You act like you don't know they're white supremacists. That's what they try to do. They tell you, we don't know if you're white supremacist or not. They're all acting dumb and play stupid when we show up. Okay, they played stupid all this damn time. Now I'm just letting the rest of them have them. And by the way, y'all remember that I've told you about this before. See, I need y'all to understand something. You don't see any of your Jewish groups standing up and calling out these young Republicans. Did you notice that? What? Hey, man, by the way, did you notice that none of your Jewish groups out there are calling out the young Republicans there? Did y'all notice that? Notice who I didn't mention tonight. Yeah, notice they were specifically taking shots at them, but you notice it's quiet on the home front. Now, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? All right, people. See, need I remind you, this is why you have to have a black media. Need I remind you all that no less than Elon Musk loved, he was making Jewish jokes and everything else, remember? They were calling him anti-Semitic, and he started making Jewish jokes all over the damn place. And then I showed y'all, by the way, you see the ADL, that none of them, they weren't jumping on him like that, showed it online. Oh, they backed off. Now, there were a bunch of Jewish folk who were like, hey, y'all folks over here, ADL stuff, y'all ain't on code. He's mocking us, man. We're not going to be quiet about that. Yeah, but the rest of them were quiet. And the truth of the matter is that Elon Musk is no less anti-Jewish now than he was before. All these cats out there, if they don't like black folks, see, it used to be the Jewish people understood that up and down the line. If they hate black folk, they damn sure don't like Jews. You allowed yourselves to get lulled into a false sense of security, and Elon is still circling out there. He's still the richest man in the world by value, and he still ain't got no love for you. He is not trying to figure out how to get black folk out of here and leave Jewish folk. He's going to be like, all right, go blacks and take the Jews with you. Okay. See, I'm sitting up here letting you all know that this is what's going on behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, this is what these folk are really on. This is the type of time that they're really on. And a whole bunch of folks out there who thought that black folk were going to get the business and the rest of them were just going to march on and, oh, well, see you niggas later. Now all the rest of them are in the seat now. All the rest of them are on the hot seat now. I warned them what it was. However, you might disagree. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and open up the lines here for the Zoom so you all can call in. That'll be an option for you here as well. I've let you all know what's happening in these places and what's going on, not so you'll be afraid, but so that you will be aware. I don't want you to be scared about these things. I want you to be aware of these things so that you can be on code as a group and to recognize where these other folks, they think they're winning, and in many cases, they're actually losing. We're going to go ahead and pin that in the chat room for you here. In the meantime, I would like to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out here to my man, Mr. Richburg. Thank you very much for your support tonight. To Andrew L., Mark B., Najee, Sister Nancy King. Thank you very much for your support tonight too, sister. To Tom Slick, Chief Rocca, Fu Quan, and everyone else here who has supported tonight's program. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we'll see about taking a few of your calls here. This is the Black Channel.
Be the teacher, knowledge on the block. Got the kids learning, minds open like a lock. Books and skills from the east to the west. Bringing education, yeah, we're simply the best. Classes on fire, brains burning with desire. Innovation driving like a tire through the mire. Math, science, history, we got the whole range. Kids hitting new heights, teachers making a change. Used to be the teacher, stacking up the grades. Future bright shining, no need for no shades. Got the youth thriving, moving up the ladder. Smart and sharp, brains growing fatter. Lessons so lit, yeah, they stay ablaze. Every mind sharp like a sword in the haze. Mr. B in the house breaking knowledge chains. Education kingpin, we ripping the games. Used to be the teacher.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all this evening. We are discussing for the first time here, they finally have just taken the Klan robes off, or should I say put the Klan robes on. Vice President J.D. Vance has just come out and defended blatant Nazism, blatant slavery. They finally just gone ahead and done that. They finally went ahead and done that. And this is exactly what we want, people. We want them to get so emboldened that they put everything on the record. I know it's a little uncomfortable in the moment, but we want them to say these things on the record. People, you can't convict somebody of something they didn't do. You can only convict them of what they did do. But that means that first you must allow them to do it. So if we won't allow them to do it, you can't penalize them. Let's go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom right quick. By the way, brief reminder, make sure you all have your camera and microphone turned on. YouTube won't see you, just me. I'll be the only one who sees you, but just to make sure we don't have any trolling issues, everybody on Zoom, make sure you have your camera and microphone turned on. All right, let's go ahead and get Nahariri. Is that
Najari?
Najari. All right, Najari, what's on your mind?
How you doing, Jason? Love the program. I just wanted to say thank you for giving us the game and showing us things we can't see or articulate. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, FBA all the way. I have to apologize because I mentioned a YouTuber in the chat, but I didn't do it like out of malice. I just was pointing out the fact that on topic, I was listening to said YouTuber pivot and start speaking about things that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan was speaking on, and about the whole situation with the Jews, and just things that are relevant to our plight. And that's all. Okay,
well, you're referring to Candace Owens, but here's the problem. Okay. I covered this already. Yeah. Candace did not actually do what you just said. So in reality, Candace, when she was asked about it, was like, well, I don't really know much about Louis Farrakhan. It's just what I was told by the folks at Turning Point, but I don't actually know anything about him, which you know is a lie. Now, yes. You know that's a lie, but she said that anyway. So when you're dealing with such an obviously dishonest broker, that's the most important thing to keep in mind. She's not pivoting. It is that she's changing markets. Candace Owens has always been about the bag. She was pro-black when she needed to get through college, and as soon as she got through there, white folk were paying her. PragerU was paying her. Turning Point was paying her. So Candace did all this stuff for the same reason the Coons do it, because it gives them an easier path to get paid. There's not much black competition. They went to a place that was looking for black mascots and was willing to pay for it. Oh, you look surprised. You didn't know that?
I'm sorry, big brother Jason. I didn't know that.
Some of y'all new booties out there. I mean, y'all see Candace Owens on YouTube and stuff. Y'all new booties need to be investigating this stuff, man. Candace Owens was paid by these people. She wasn't just doing PragerU out of the goodness of her heart. And she damn sure was not at Turning Point out of the goodness of her heart. And she for damn sure was not at Daily Wire out of the goodness of her heart. So she was getting paid, bruh. Turning Point USA is supposed to be a nonprofit, but they make a bunch of money over there, man. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Okay, well, I apologize. Again, I want to apologize to the chat, and I'm gonna fall back and land my plane there, big brother. I didn't mean any disrespect by mentioning the other YouTuber.
No, it's no problem. It's just on the program here, I like to make sure we just stay on topic for it. So if I don't mention them, I just want to make sure we stay on topic. But I want you to keep that in mind, brother.
Yes, sir.
That's not a minor thing. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Yeah, for y'all new folks out there, don't just sit up here and watch a video and stuff. Y'all need to investigate these people, man. Research what you're looking at. They got y'all just thinking any old thing. All right, let's jump back over here on Zoom again. See if we can get Gladys up here. See if we can get Gladys on Zoom. Okay, this is not the Gladys I was looking for, but all right, Gladys, you look like a Glenn.
My bad, brother Jason. This is Douglas. I've called in the past. How you doing this evening?
All right, Gladys Douglas spelled inside out. All right, what's on your mind, brother?
All is well, brother. I wanted to ask you what can we do to get some of the white people who I know are actually in the chat watching your video right now, who support us and what we're trying to do. How do we get them more involved, and what can they do to help us? Because I heard you mention earlier, the same way someone turned in those 3 people from the young Republican group with all the nonsense and racism that they were spouting on their private group chat. I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know if people in the white community are willing to quote unquote snitch on their friends and family members and loved ones that help hold them accountable, even though they preach accountability. So I'm gonna step back and let you cook on that.
Well, look, there are two things that the non-black society can do. Number 1, out the white supremacists amongst your ranks. And number 2, support our issues and our agenda. Those are the 2 things you can do. So number 1 is people actively standing in our way and actively inhibiting us. You have to stop doing that. But number 2, you also have to out the white supremacists, the folks who are actively opposing us and actively obstructing us. So number 1, make sure you're not obstructing us. Make sure you're actually supporting the agenda. And number 2, out anybody amongst your group, and you know who they are, who are obstructing us. Those 2 things, simple as that right there. Now, how simple that is to have them do that, brother, we can't make people do things. We can sit up here and advise them what the right thing is to do. But by the way, we're going to do what we have to do regardless. We're not going to stop doing what we have to do either which way it goes. Take a look at how far we gotten with no support at all. So we're going to do what we have to do regardless. But if they want to know what they could do, if they really wanted to prove they were righteous, we're not going to believe you until you start doing stuff like that. Taking pats on the back and things, we're full up for that. You want to make real change, you know exactly what you need to do. You need to get your John Brown on and actively undermine the system. That will make a difference.
Knowing that these type of people will in the future be running for government. What is your stance? I'm sure you talked about it on previous episodes or previous shows. What is your stance on us being more proficient when it comes to firearms? Like, do we need to start taking our second amendment more seriously and training ourselves to be more proficient with the use of firearms? Because, it's coming to a place where if these are the type of people that are going to be running for Republican and Democrat office, because it's not just the Republicans, they're both on some racist nonsense, on some Nazi stuff. So do we need to put more of an emphasis on that? Because I've heard you talk about...
I don't see how much more emphasis there could be on it. Unless a person has just been asleep for the last 150 years, I don't know how much more emphasis there could be. Of all the people in America who need to be defended, I don't know what more. All I can say is a person would just have to be asleep for the last 150 years. I don't know how much more urgency you need. I don't even know why it would have to be said to them. So if you're not doing that, I don't know what planet you've been on. I don't know what you're watching. I don't know what you're seeing if you don't already get it. I'm at the point right now, if I have to explain that to a person, I don't think it would help to explain it to them. You haven't seen enough to impress it on you? Well, okay, well, let me you hope for the best. Meanwhile, I got my candy bar.
No, there's been, unfortunately, and I'm not going to say this is a bad thing, but there's been a lot of focus on us getting our health together, getting our personal trainer, making sure we're physically active, getting our diet together, getting our private chefs, getting our money right. And sometimes we're so focused on that that we forget about, oh, what about this over here? What about being proficient with a firearm? What about the safety and security of my family? We're doing so much to level up, to get to a higher status, to get more leverage. But what good is that leverage if we're not proficient with our firearms, just in case something goes down? We hope and pray it doesn't, but history shows us that's probably more than likely what it's going to head down to.
Well, as black folk today, I don't think they've been paying attention. I can't take a person seriously as even paying attention with everything that they've seen if they're not already on top of that. I just don't know what they've been looking at this point. It's self-explanatory. It's not something I have to sell a person on, unless they just seen the same things you and I have seen and just said, Well, most of them, a lot of folks think that they can take a look at danger and be like, well, if I ignore it, it'll just go away. And I don't want to get involved. Okay, well, you're not looking for a fight. What happens when the fight comes looking for you? So if a person does not take it seriously with this mountain of evidence in front of them, like I say, I mean, they take their chances. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Let me see if we can get to, affably named Mr. Black here. Okay, Mr. Black, what's on your mind?
Affably named Mr. Black.
Turn off your YouTube speaker, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry about that. All right, cool. I don't know if this has been mentioned, but I'm sure you're aware about the protests that are going on, the No Kings protests. Have you noticed that there's not a lot of violence? The protesters aren't being attacked. There's no tear gas, there's no rubber bullets. But, when they had the George Floyd protests, there was a lot of violence directed towards us. So I just find it interesting that, you have the liberals out there, you have the immigrants, out there. You have the probably the LGBT, Q community out there, and can you hear me?
Yeah, I mean the bottom line is they're in basically safe places. They're not really okay. Slow down. They're in safe places. They're not in. They're not. When we were in the streets, we were in places where we had been assaulted. We were on hostile ground. These people are not on hostile ground anywhere. They're not. So, yeah, that's the reason why it's radically different. They're on home turf. They're not on hostile ground.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't know if you were hearing me because it's without the YouTube on. Like it's real quiet, so I didn't know if you can hear me or not. Yeah, no, I just thought that was interesting. It seems like it's a very safe, almost
They're protesting for the cameras. They're protesting to be seen. Right. They're protesting for the friendly media and friendly cameras. When we took to the streets during George Floyd's protests, we were in hostile territory. So these people are not talking to a hostile media. We had a hostile media, hostile police, hostile streets. So that's why everything is different. You had white supremacists out there with guns going at us. So no. These people are not on hostile ground. We were on hostile ground. These people are on home turf talking to other so-called white liberals and things, but this is not hostile territory.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, that's all I wanted to point out. I just think it's hilarious because, this an old No Kings protest, it's nationwide and all these people. And, it just seems like a performative type of function, and there's no backlash. So I'm just wondering, controlled opposition. Like even though the Democrats say, "Oh, we don't like Trump," and I mean there are some people that are really opposed to Trump.
Well, no, I mean I'm sure there's some money behind it to promote that. I'm pretty sure there's money behind it to promote that and stuff. To catch some headlines and some articles and make a big to do about it, but ultimately, like I say, it's really just to get some attention and to act like they're doing something because the man's going to be in office for another 3 years. So it's basically to be symbolic and I guess to make it known they can hit the streets. But other than that, there's no hostile territory going on. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Yeah, I mean, they're not on hostile ground, man. They're not on hostile ground. The media is not hostile. Everything is... They're out there in the streets because they're allowed to be. When we took to the streets, we were not allowed to be out there. They were not allowing us to be out there. We took to the streets because that's where we have been harmed at. These folk are taking the streets and nobody's harmed them. Nobody's harmed them. So, I mean, hey, it's cool. They can do what they do. They can do what they do. But by the way, nothing's going to get popping until we show up. Nothing is going to get popping until we show up. If we don't show up, it ain't going to pop off. And this is why everybody wants to get us upset and get us agitated, because we are the movers of American culture. We're the movers of American culture and the definers of it. So they want us to get agitated and stuff. So we'll take the streets and, oh, we got to defend the Democrats. No, the Democrats got to defend us. And I'm looking out there in California. If during the reign of terror of Donald J. Trump, California cannot sit up here and counterbalance that, if they're not going to do it under these conditions, they are not going to voluntarily do it at all. If they won't do it right now when it really makes a difference, they're letting you know they have no intention of doing it at all unless we make that the only agenda. But just recognize that's not accidental. That's not accidental. I want everyone to keep this in mind here, that they've gotten real open and blatant with their white supremacy, and this is what we wanted. We wanted them to get open. We wanted them to get bold. We wanted them to get blatant. We wanted them to stop pretending that they don't support slavery and Nazism. We wanted them to finally do that. J.D. Vance has finally done that. They think they're going to move the so-called Overton window and normalize blatant white supremacy. That's what they're openly trying to do. And for them, it's a do or die moment. They are putting all their chips on this. This is the last charge of the Light Brigade. They're putting all their chips that if they're going to normalize white supremacy going into the future, it's now or never. So they are willing to go jumping out the window and flying over the cliff in their attempt to normalize it, because this will be their last opportunity to do so if they ever could. That's what this is about. Normalizing white supremacy, and you're going to have some sacrifices and some folks get written off. But they are so dedicated to white supremacy that they're now saying we're going to try to normalize it now or never. And of course, it's going to end disastrously, because it can only end disastrously. They'll keep trying here. They will get horrifyingly diminishing returns. But we would be remiss if we did not include the Democrats in that as well, to remind them that, by the way, when all this was going on right there, you had every opportunity to push some real legislative change, even under these circumstances, and you refused to do so. Not you couldn't, you refused. Okay, just understand you will at some point come back around looking for our help and looking for our support. At some point, you will. You always do, because you must. And we'll be right there to knock you on your ass and tell you hell no. We'll be right there for it when you get back. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you're new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the new Black Media. And if we have earned your subscription, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I'll wait till the end of the program here. If you like what you've heard and if you want to make sure you don't miss it, hit that subscribe button. And if we haven't earned your subscription tonight, come back tomorrow night. We'll be here again. We'll give it another shot. But you're definitely not going to want to miss it. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program, live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.